May I have a motion to return to public session? May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Before we begin the public participation on agenda items only, Mr. Garrido would like to make a statement at this time.
Good evening, everyone. On June 18th, 2021, the district conducted a voluntary culture and climate survey to district students in grades 4 through 12. Previously, on June 7th, 2021, and June 10th, 2021, the district sent district parents and guardians of students in grades 4 to 12 communication advising them that they had the option to have the child opt out of the voluntary survey. At the same time, parents and guardians were instructed to call the respective schools with any questions related to the survey. In response to the district's communications, some parents and guardians opted out of the survey and advised the district that their child would not participate in the same. Over the past week, the Board of Education heard of parent and guardian concerns over the age appropriateness of a survey question addressing a student's sexual orientation. The Board of Education takes the concerns of parents and guardians seriously. The board and the district always welcome parent and guardian feedback and are always reviewing district practices and the age appropriateness of future student survey questions. As always, the district surveys will continue to seek parent and guardian input, and parents and guardians will always have the option to choose to have their child opt out of any district survey. The Roselle Park School District is committed to providing all students with a safe and secure learning environment. The purpose of the Culture and Climate Survey was to ensure that all students, including all subgroups of students, feel included, safe, and secure. The Culture and Climate Survey seeks demographic information in order to maximize its effectiveness and build a foundation from which the district may seek the improvement. Like all student surveys, the Culture and Climate Survey is aligned with the district's core values for an ethical education. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Garrido. At this time, it is public participation time, agenda items only. Each member of the public may speak a maximum of 3 minutes. Please state your name and address for the record. If you wish to speak on agenda items only, you may step up to the podium. Seeing none, we'll move on to committee reports. Anybody here on the dais have a committee report?
Yes, Madam President. And we were discussing about the Grove. It's the area, street area, by the back parking lot. Oh, you hold it up there? Okay. It's the treat area in the back of the school. Some of the trees are large and branches are falling off, acorns hitting the cars and all that. So our thought was, and we would discuss it more at a later date, our thoughts were is if we took the trees down, we could create a green space. We could use it for a movie night. We can use it for the younger soccer players. If we got somebody to come in and, what do we say, Chad? Design it, they might be able to even get a field out of it, like a softball field that we might be able to use it for the younger children. The high school could use it for their gym period. So there's a lot of things we can use if we just use our imagination with it. So board, if you please think about it. If you want to take a look over there, there's quite a few trees, about 40 trees. But again, right now it's underutilized. Nobody goes back over there. We used to have it years ago. We used to have the shuffleboard back there. We also used to have tables that you could play checkers or chess on it. There was things to do. Right now, we don't have any of that. And right now it's just becoming just a piece of land that is not being utilized. So we're just looking at, because there is no fields anywhere in the town, this is the last area that I know of that we can do something with our children and the community can use. So board, think about it, please. We will. We're going to look into what the cost is to take the trees down and see if we do it on there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harms. Are there any other committee reports at this time? I received an email the other day from Mr. Matt Spritzico, one of our social studies teachers at the high school, and he thanked the Board of Ed for recognizing his 25 years of service. So I promised him I would let you all know. Thank you. Now I'll turn the microphone over to Mr. Garrido, who has the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mrs. Carlstrom. Good evening, everyone. Again, there are two items that I wanted to bring to everyone's attention. The first one, yesterday, the governor made an announcement that beginning September, masks are not required in schools. However, this morning I received information from the New Jersey Department of Education. Actually, it's a report, or it's a plan called the Road Forward, which gives districts the option of either requiring masks or not. Also, it gives other guidelines and other recommendations. We will be reading, reviewing all of the guidelines very carefully over the next few weeks. And in August, we will put out a plan. However, the plan as of now is to return in September, full days every day for the entire day, including lunch. So I just want to make sure that everyone knows this. There is a definitely a plan out there that the DOE put out. Right now, as you know, things do change very quickly and very frequently. So I will wait to August before we put out a definite plan. The second item that I have, actually, it's very good news for the district. Back in the spring, the district went through a review called the New Jersey Cusack. Is the New Jersey Quality Single Accountability Continuum. On June 10th, we received a letter from the New Jersey Department of Education that says that the district met all of the 5 areas that Cusack reviewed and therefore was designated a high-performing district. The commissioner at this time will recommend to the Board of Education that the district be certified as providing a thorough and efficient system of education for a period of 3 years. The 5 areas that were monitored or reviewed were instruction and program, fiscal management, governance, operations, and personnel. We needed to meet over 80% in each of the areas. Instruction and program, we met 88%, fiscal management, 100%, governance, 100%, operations, 98%, and personnel, 98%. So congratulations. I do want to thank everyone that was involved. We did have committee, a team of administrators that worked very hard in this review. So I want to congratulate them as well. This was exciting and great news for the district. For the next 3 years, we are being designated a high-performing district. Mrs. Carlson, that's all that I have tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Garrido. At this time, we'll move to personnel, agenda items 1 through 15, and addenda items 1 through 6. 1, staff appointments. 2, rescinding of staff appointment. 3, district substitutes. 4, additional high school extracurricular advisors, 2020, 2021. 5, athletic proctors, site managers for 2021, 2022. 6, 2020, 2021 additional scholarship awards. 7, summer credit recovery program additional staff. 8, summer camp additional staff. 9, additional athletic coaches, 2021, 2022. 10, staff resignation. 11, home instruction instructors. 12, medical leave of absence extension request. 13, medical leave of absence request. 14, 2021 additional ESY staff. And the addenda personnel, 1, staff appointments. 2, additional high school extracurricular advisors, 2020, 2021. 3, 2021 additional ESY program. 4, district substitutes. 5, summer credit recovery program additional staff. 6, staff resignation. May I have a motion to approve?
Motion.
May I have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Vice President Falcon.
Yes.
Mr. Fernandez.
Yes.
Mr. Harms.
Yes.
Mr. Hemingway.
Yes.
Ms. Kirkland.
Yes.
Ms. McLeod Cato.
Yes, with abstention on number 8.
Ms. Quintella.
Yes.
And President Crosstrom.
Yes. Now we'll move on to education, agenda items 15 through 18 and addenda item 7. 15, approval for toilet room facilities for pre-kindergarten, kindergarten classrooms. 16, 2021, 2022 high school marching band schedule. 17, New Jersey Quality Single Accountability Continuum, or otherwise known as New Jersey Cusack. 18, educational programs. And the addenda, number 1, AP Summer Institute Training Attendance Request. May I have a motion to approve these? May I have a second? Roll call, please.
I'm sorry, who seconded? Vice President Falcon.
Yes.
Mr. Fernandez.
Yes.
Mr. Harms.
Yes.
Mr. Hemingway.
Yes.
Ms. Kirkland.
Yes.
Ms. McLeod Cato.
Yes.
Ms. Quintella.
Yes.
And President Crosstrom.
Yes. Now on to business. Agenda items 19 through 31 and addenda items 8 through 12. 19, approval of bills. 20, approval of minutes. 21, grant submission and acceptance. 22, grant submission. 23, donation acceptance. 24, HVAC upgrade submission. 25, use of building and grounds. 26, disposal of property. 27, field light project. 28, budget transfers. 29, parent transporting contracts. 30, professional services contract. 31, settlement agreement. And then the addenda items under business. 7, use of building and grounds. 8, secretary treasurer reports. 9, professional services contract 2021, 2022. 10, additional approval of bills. 11, additional budget transfers. May I have a motion to approve these?
Motion.
May I have a second?
Second.
Oh, well, not one, we need a roll call at this time.
Vice President Falcon.
Yes.
Mr. Fernandez.
Yes.
Mr. Harms,
Yes.
Mr. Hemingway,
Yes.
Ms. Kirkland,
Yes.
Ms. Cato,
Yes.
Ms. Quintella,
Yes.
and President Carlstrom.
Yes. Does anyone have any continuing business to bring up from the dais? Any new business? Seeing or hearing none, we're going to move on to the public participation portion. Each member of the public may speak a maximum of 3 minutes. Please state your name and address for the record as you step up to the podium.
Is there a light? No. Oh, yeah. Okay. Hi, Katie McDermott, 730 Galloping Hill Road. I wanted to take a moment to give some kudos to Mrs. Mormello and the entire ESY teachers and staff for a wonderful start on Monday. I know staffing this year was a bit of an issue and a challenge, and I appreciate the work and the effort that went into making sure the program took place in person and that our children were greeted with familiar, friendly faces. I also wanted to follow up regarding Francesca Hunt's comment at the last meeting regarding public participation. While we have a number of people here tonight, we know that this is an anomaly. Board member Fernandez said recently in a Facebook exchange that there's hardly any parental participation and that he advocates for parents to get more involved. One way the board and the district can do that is by reversing your decision to not allow participation via Zoom and/or email. We've learned so many things from this pandemic, and we've built the infrastructures to allow a tremendous amount of flexibility. For example, we were able to remote learn on primary day instead of closing the schools. If we truly want to be an inclusive district, we need to make and give parents the ability to have their voices heard. And one way we can do that, you can do that, is by allowing comments via Zoom and/or email. As Ms. Hunt said last time, allowing parents to call in means that those who are commuting home or working late can participate. Parents can join from athletic fields. Those without childcare can participate. We saw that the number of parents participating increased when meetings were held via Zoom. We know it works, so why not keep it going? I would suggest if you do return to the hybrid model or return to a hybrid model, which many districts have embraced and are continuing to do so, that you limit email comments so that they are more in line with the 3-minute limitation for comments given live. So that's it. I have one last thing I would like to say. My youngest son is in ESY, and he has recently become a fan of Hawaiian shirts. Mr. Salvo really took a liking to William's Hawaiian shirts, and he said that he was going to ask permission to wear a Hawaiian shirt tomorrow. So I would like to formally request that Mr. Salvo be given permission to wear a Hawaiian shirt tomorrow for ESY. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Susie Biamonte, and I live at 32 East Clay Avenue. I have 2 daughters in the school system, one entering 2nd and the other 7th grade in September. I would like to discuss with you the Tripod Diversity Equity Inclusion Survey given to grades 4 through 12 that was recently administered. My 6th grade, 11-year-old daughter came home to me and brought to my attention that there were questions on the survey that she didn't understand. In my opinion, some of those questions and terms used in this survey were not age appropriate. Questions such as, what is your sexual orientation? Heterosexual, bisexual, gay, lesbian, queer, questioning, or prefer not to say. Similar questions asking about religious beliefs, sexuality, your parents' education, your nationality, and also giving the definition of transgender in one of the questions is the school district crossing a fine line of where students should get such education from home. I feel that these questions are intrusive and doing more harm than good, and furthermore, creating a divide where we should be trying to unify. Speaking to other parents, most of the children had no understanding of some of the questions and terminology, which were creating more confusion for them at this age and level. I feel that the Board of Education has overstepped their bounds by providing a survey that was more intrusive rather than inclusive. I have lived in Roselle Park my entire life, went through the school system from kindergarten through 12th grade. My husband and I purchased a home in 2006 because we wanted our children to experience the same quality education and experiences that I had. I'm highly disappointed the way the Board of Education, superintendent, business administrator, and anyone else involved in distributing this survey has handled the presentation and distribution of it. A survey that was emailed to parents which portrayed an optional questionnaire for parents and children. My daughter and her classmates were given the survey in school on June 18th. The opt-out of this survey went out the door when it was brought into the classrooms without letting the parents know, to have their children speak up and say, my parents don't wish for me to take this survey, or teachers saying, this is optional, not mandatory, and that's not what happened. I contacted the head of guidance and the superintendent in hopes to have my questions and concerns answered, and how to hear moving forward that the district's administration will make sure my child, her classmates, and the Roselle Park Middle School staff will never be put into an uncomfortable and inappropriate situation in school ever again. Unfortunately, none of my questions were answered, and that's when I felt it was necessary to approach the entire board with my concerns. One of my important questions was, how will I have the option to remove my 7-year-old child from class when and if inappropriate age-level curriculum that my husband and I don't feel comfortable with will be taught in the classroom? This leads my friends and I to many more questions we'd like to present. First, I'd like to give you each a copy of the survey that my 11-year-old had to take in school, and I'd like to ask if the board members would like to comment.
Mrs.
Thank you for your
Bayamonte,
time.
Thank you. 3 minutes is up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Would any other member of the public like to approach the podium? If so, please state your name and address.
Good evening. My name is Paul Baiamonte. That was my wife, Susie Baiamonte. We live at 32 East Clay Avenue. As you know, we have 2 daughters attending the school system, a 7th grader and a 2nd grader. I'd like to take this opportunity to state that I support my wife's statement 100%. And I'd like to piggyback on it from a slightly different angle. My feelings are people regardless of their color, race, ethnicity, religion, sexuality. We should view each other as one people. These are values that my wife and I will discuss with our children when we feel the time is appropriate. And I understand that when the time is appropriate for us may differ from when the time is appropriate for another family. I'm very disappointed at this Board of Education with this, which does not just include board members, but also includes superintendent, business administrator, principal, and anyone else who was involved in distributing this invasive and divisive survey. It was administered with no real thought on the adverse effects it can have on some of the younger children, and that were not prepared to understand these terms, nor the political agenda that comes along with it. This survey has no real value other than to push an agenda that has nothing to do with the education of our children. Your job is to put forth the best infrastructure for our teachers, students, including buildings, grounds, technology, and a healthy learning environment. Your job is to figure out how to handle the needs for new schools, reconstruction, renovations. Your job also is to hire the best superintendents, best business administrator, best principals, guidance counselors, teachers, and support staff. Your job is to budget our money and use it wisely. Your job is to provide air conditioning in this auditorium. Instead, you've wasted our time and money on a survey that has no real purpose. Excuse me. The survey that asks questions that are, in my opinion, none of your business. When I look around this room, I see a lot of successful people that have made it through different school systems, I'm sure, without having to answer a survey regarding color, race, ethnicity, religion, or sexuality. Why the need to add this distraction to our curriculum? Let's stop the nonsense and refocus our energies on making a Roseville Park school system one of the best systems in the state. I'm hoping that moving forward, we can all do a better job of providing more transparency, no more hidden agendas, no more excuses. In closing, I'd like to remind you, let the parents parent. It's not your job to ask my children about their sexuality, religion, etc. Your job is to give our children a good all-around education and a promising future. Keep one's personal business out of the school system. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Diana Vivi. I live at 114 West Grant Avenue. I have a son who's in second grade and a daughter who is 11 years old, and she's in sixth grade. I was also very upset. She came home when she took the survey. She didn't understand half of the questions. She Googled many of them, like heterosexual and queer, from her school computer on Friday, June 18th. So I just have a few questions that I'm going to ask. How will any of the survey information help out the students in school? What do you plan to do with the survey information you collected? Who was on the school diversity committee? Why wasn't the entire board allowed to read the survey before it was approved? Why is it that when we take our children to the pediatrician and dentist, the parents are asked to fill out all the informational paperwork, including questions and surveys, but in school, the survey was sent to the children asking questions pediatricians do not ask? What is the purpose of this survey? Why was this survey given to young children who didn't even understand the content in the questions? And what was the purpose of repeating such terminology such as sexual orientation more than 5 times in the survey to 11-year-olds in understanding how their school year went? Why not just, how was your experience with hybrid learning? Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Cynthia Diaz, 418 Filbert Street. And I have a few more questions as well. Why wasn't a permission slip sent home for the parents to approve or disapprove the survey? Why wasn't this handled on an individual basis between each student and their guidance counselor? Why were the members of the School Diversity and Equity Committee selected? How they were selected? How did the board decide that Roselle Park would put out the Tripod Inc. survey when surrounding towns such as Cranford didn't, and other towns who had absolutely nothing inappropriate in them? Will the Roselle Park School District be implementing a new curriculum in our schools using the information provided in the survey? If so, will permission slips go home with entire lessons for each grade for parents to review and choose whether or not we want them to be included? Thank you.
Thank you.
Janine Goodis, 152 Berwyn Street. My final child graduated this week. I thought I was done. The baton was passed. Then I heard about this survey. My first thought was different players, same game. Roselle Park School District has always acted as if they knew better how to handle our children than us parents. I've been coming to board meetings for 18 years and have had many fights against the board plans multiple times. Some highlights were when the principals called in the PTA presidents to announce that the board has decided they were doing away with field trips. No backstory. The next big one was the uniform fight. They created a panel for that one with one parent. After many contentious meetings, that was dropped as well. The last one comes to mind was when we were redistricting and a new curriculum was snuck in without discussion. Former board member, current councilman, Mr. Signorello walked into that meeting waving the paperwork, the referendum, wanting to know Why did you spend all this time and money adding additions to our buildings if you were going to redistrict? There's been other examples since, but those are the ones that we were lucky enough to stop because we had the information prior. That's why I feel so awful. I've been preoccupied. I have older kids. I didn't see this one coming. The purpose of this survey was to get a feel for the climate of the school so that everyone is treated equally. However, the parents that are upset about their younger children being exposed to some of this wording in the survey are now being name called. They're told, you don't realize all the stuff your kids know. You're just babying your kids. Isn't that treating them unfairly, the exact opposite of what the purpose of this survey was trying to prevent? We use all the proper buzzwords at these meetings: stakeholders, homeschool connection, equity, but yet we never follow through. I would like to know whose idea this survey was. I have my suspicions. The two newest board members ran on this very topic. Sorry. And why, when it was brought forward, did you choose not to form a parental committee to find out what people would be comfortable asking the children in different age groups? These surveys could have been tailored to fit the student population. Also, some of the students have said the staff told them they must take the survey. It was a grade. Who's responsible for that disinformation? And what will be their repercussions? I know it's hard to get parental involvement, but principals in each of the buildings know the parents that are involved. You've got great PTA presidents now in all the buildings. They could have given you feedback. I was not personally offended by the questions. My child is 17. She can answer on her own. However, this was done incorrectly. And I am hoping that although we can't stop it now, we can correct it moving forward. I'm hoping you'll please change the game.
Thank you.
Is it on? Jen Jaskula, 145 West Grant Avenue. Many of you up there know me. I've been coming to these meetings off and on for 20 years, sometimes in a good point, sometimes in a bad. I'm a parent of a 30-year-old, a 27-year-old, and a 15-year-old that took this test. He heard about it in the car with me on Saturday afternoon and told me he was told he had to take it by a building administrator who is not a principal in his building in gym class. The best way that I can say it, because it was a very interesting conversation for the rest of the day with him, is that whatever points that you've got out of this coming out of the high school kids when they're forced to take something, you're not getting a true sense of what is going on in this building. I've been in this building for many, many years. I've been in a number of other school buildings and school districts through my job. I have to tell you, this is probably one of the most diverse and inclusive buildings for everybody. And to have the division that we have created in this past 2 weeks is absolutely horrendous as far as I'm concerned. You have parents divided because of words that we use for something that should have been inclusive. It's truly sad and it's disheartening to see at this point. In 20 years, this is the worst I've ever seen it. And you all know that we have an amazing PTAs, PTOs, a CPAG, of parents who want to be involved. And I'm standing here as one of those parents. Never once have I been asked to be on these committees. You have Mrs. Goodis, who has been there with me, and a number of the other parents that are in here. Maybe it's time we stopped looking at ourselves and started looking outside and reaching out to the parents that are involved in the buildings so that we do have a really good idea of what we're going on. This high school has changed immensely from a parent who had a 27-year-old when first this started to come about, where we talked about LGBTQ, to where we are today. We were so much further ahead in 2012 than where we are right now today with what this survey has done. And like I said, I believe your survey answers are going to be skewed because taking it in gym class with your counterparts isn't going to be. And one last thing, Mr. Garrido, you said that we were able to opt our children out. I pulled up that letter. Nowhere in there does it say that I could opt my child out on the June 7th letter. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Cindy Mago, 433 Walnut Street. My first comment tonight, I know Mr. Garrido already mentioned it, is in regards to mask requirements for next year. Mr. Garrido, you have said that the mask requirement was not up to you or this board. However, as of Monday, Governor Murphy removed the school mask mandate and left it up to you. Will you stand by what you've said and lift the school mask mandate for next year? Second, I would also like to address this climate survey. To send this sort of survey to students without the explicit permission of parents is a complete overstep by this board. Parents must sign permission slips for everything from photographs to cough drops, but you thought it was fine to present this to students without permission. How does asking a student or guardian, for that matter, what their gender identity or sexual orientation is? How does that promote inclusion? When or how I discuss these things with my children is my business alone. To say it was optional is a stretch. When some students were told it was mandatory, some were told they could skip questions, but not the survey itself. And at no time were they told they didn't have to fill it out at all. Calling it anonymous is yet another stretch when it's taken online with a unique login that can obviously be tracked. How much taxpayer money was spent on this survey and the ensuing data collection? My last comment is in regards to transparency and parent involvement. Over and over, parents are told, if you want to have a voice, go to the meetings. Yet showing up here, anyone can see the lack of transparency and acknowledgement of parental concerns. When decisions are all made behind closed doors, how is that transparent? How can parents express their input? Telling parents you won't respond to their comments publicly is the opposite of transparent. Why should parents email concerns so that no one else can hear the board's response? How many other parents may feel the exact same way? To come here and speak and get no resolution or anything other than a thank you next response is insulting. That may be the board's current policy, but that really needs to change. Just because the board doesn't have to respond doesn't mean they can't or shouldn't. We do not accept the bare minimum from our kids in school. We shouldn't have to accept the bare minimum from the school board. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Cheryl McDermott. I live at 153 Butler Avenue. I put 4 kids through the school system and I was really happy with it until this came out. My question to you is, who authorized this and what are the end results going to be? What is it going to matter? How is it going to be used? Are you going to hold this against kids or not hold it against kids? You're going to hold it against parents who are sitting here because they're really angry with it? I'm angry with it. I got 2 grandchildren. I don't want them going to a school system that's sending out letters like this. If you were going to send an email out, this survey should have been on the email for the parents to read prior. They should have known what was going on.
Thank you.
Hello, Jackie Garcia, 600 Laurel Avenue. Similar to Ms. Hunt and Ms. McDermott, I too am requesting that the board consider a hybrid online approach for all the reasons Ms. McDermott so eloquently stated. And I also wanted to make a comment on the cultural and climate survey. I was surprised, pleasantly surprised that is. Regardless of the logistics on how the survey was conducted, conversations about disability, race, ethnic, and sexualities are hard. The truth is that for some, home is not a safe space. Some are chastised for supporting Black Lives Matter movements and also are chastised for the sexuality preferences. And I applaud the board for actually taking this step and surveying the parents and also the children And while the logistics of how the survey was conducted, could maybe be improved upon, I saw this as a way of the district's attempt to be more inclusive. From personal experience, I know that disabilities are rarely ever talked about. So I was pleasantly surprised to see questions on physical and mental disabilities on there. Maybe we could have added a few more, but I'm being biased there. The diversity and inclusion survey was unexpected, but overall needed. I've been attending Board of Ed meetings for quite some time, and I don't think we've ever discussed this diversity. I understand sexuality is a very touchy point, but the survey went into race and disabilities as I mentioned, and I look forward to seeing the results and the district's plan moving forward on how we implement the inclusion moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. If a member of the public would like to come to the podium, this is your chance to do it. Seeing no one at this time, we thank you for your attendance and we thank you for your statements. And you as parents have every right to ask questions and to ask us to investigate things further. Thank you. At this time, the Board of Ed needs to go into executive session again. They're going to convene to the executive session for the discussion of the following subjects: personnel matters. It is anticipated that the executive session will take approximately 30 minutes. The board may take action when it reconvenes to public session, and the minutes of the executive session shall be released to the public when the reason for the executive session no longer exists. May I have a motion to go back into closed session?
Make the motion.
May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All here because there were two absent there. Mr. McCown, Cato left. I'd like a motion to return to public session. May
The motion?
I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
At this time, I'd like to announce that the next scheduled board meeting will be an open session held on Tuesday, July 20th, 2021 at 7 PM right here at the Roselle Park High School Auditorium. May I now have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion.
May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.